In 3, 2, 1.
John, are we live?
We're live, sir.
Glad you gave me a countdown today, unlike Monday.
I know.
Threw me
Monday.
for a loop. April Fools.
Pulled the trigger too early.
Look at that. Quick trigger, John.
I know.
What's going on, buddy?
Not too much, man. Another week with 2 shows. I love it.
I know. 2 shows. We got 2 guests. I don't know if the screen can show it yet because I can't
no.
see it, but we got pizza and beer and 2 cool guests.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Shouldn't have had lunch.
I know.
But I actually finished my lunch, and then I saw Jonathan's post of him bringing the piece pizza literally 3 seconds after I threw my lunch out. After
That's
I was
a damn
done.
shame.
Time
I was
is
like,
everything.
oh, damn it. Yep.
More for us.
So do we have some shout-outs? Because I think we're going to have a lot to chat about today.
Yeah, real quick. Just shout out to Gary for coming in Monday night, giving us his thoughts on what was going to happen yesterday, which it was a resounding victory for Lori. But it was cool doing a prime time. And, that's really, I thought it was good. I really appreciate him and his time.
Yeah, thank you to him, too. And it was fun to have him in a second time, and he's pretty candid, and it was fun to hear his take on Chicago politics and the crazy experiences he had that we assumed were happening in Chicago politics, but when it's
we
confirmed
learned a lot
by the dude who's been through it, it's confirmed.
But
Yeah. I have 2 shout-outs. One to you for beating me in the fitness challenge. I had to admit it. And having the Chicago Pizza Tour as a topic today, I owe you a Chicago Pizza Tour.
And I'm looking forward to it.
So John beat me by a little bit, and he won.
It was good. Actually, thank you for running it, because I lost a lot of weight. The whole visceral fat situation, it's money's good, but health, I appreciate it. So good.
It was. I got a lot of people that text messaged me and they said, "Hey, we don't think we're going to win, or I don't think I'm going to win, but I lost so much weight and my body changed. So thanks for the idea." The last 2 years I've run a fitness challenge for 60 or 90 days, depending on which year it was. And tons of people, even the people who they put $100 in, they don't win, life changing anyways. So it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I hate losing, and you beat me. I was pissed.
I'm still gonna take you out for a steak dinner.
Well, the other shout out, and I never really do it for my own office, is to my office staff, because our 5-year anniversary was on at Main Street was on Monday. They busted their butt the last 5 years to get us here. We have our 5-year anniversary tomorrow at Basil Leaf at 6:30. Thank you to my buddy Sean. You guys are invited if you want to come tomorrow, 6:30 and 9:30. John, I think you're coming.
I believe so.
But yeah, shout out to Rita, Laura, Jeff, Paula, all of our agents. It's crazy that it's been 5 years. It's been a crazy 5 years. So
it's a
shout out to them.
Big accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's good for you, man.
A lot of people told us we wouldn't make it past a year in the real estate market in Chicago. So
yeah, you did it.
We're still here.
Keep on trucking.
Yeah. So cool. All right. So I'm going to announce both guests.
Yep.
Because we have pizza and beer, and the pizza's getting cold and the beer's getting warm. So I want to announce them both, and we'll start having some of them, and then I'll talk to Joe and then talk to John. So we got Joe Tota. He's the CEO of Tapfill Station and the Red Arrow Tap Room, Elmhurst and Naperville, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Really excited to chat about your concept, because it's a concept that you would have thought somebody else would have thought of, but nobody did. And you came up with a really cool concept, both on the restaurant bar side, but also the tech side, which we'll chat about. Mm-hmm. And then we got Jonathan Porter, who's the founder of the Chicago Pizza Tours, where I'm taking John, and the Prohibition Tours, which I'm interested to hear about as well, because off air, we were chatting about how I assumed it was only about Al Capone and the mobsters, but there's more to it than that.
Yes.
So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to hear about how you got into renting or buying a bus, getting the insurance, and then taking people, as he says, taking strangers on tours for pizza. We've had a lot of people on who've done a lot of different businesses, but to quit your job, get a bus, and take people to pizza tours in 2010, right?
Yes.
It's a pretty crazy thing. So thank you guys for coming on. John, should we have the pizza and beer?
Yeah.
Real quick as we start?
Let's break out some slices and some beers.
So what is the pizza?
All right. So today I finished my meetings early, hopped the blue line, went right up to Peace Pizza and Brewery. Got us honey butter fried chicken pizza. It's going to have a little bit, your regular tomato sauce and mozz.
Oh, wow.
But it's got a little bit of cheddar in there. You've got some banana peppers, some red peppers, honey butter fried chicken, and then a little bit of honey drizzle on that as well. So super high.
Diet's
Yeah,
gone.
Yeah.
gone. But it looks so good.
Yeah.
And Peace is amazing.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. They've been a great partner of us since we first started in 2010.
And it's one of the stops for you guys?
Yeah.
Very cool. And what kind of beer? I guess I
So-
can hold it up.
Wow, that's an amazing pizza there. This is going to go great. So this is from Noon Whistle Brewing out in Lombard.
Okay.
And it's a New England style IPA, which is kind of a hazy, tasty, juicy IPA that looks like orange juice, but it's really good, even better.
Probably actually a good, and you guys didn't plan this, but probably a good pair for that pizza.
I would say the acid of the orange juice mixing with the tomato flavor here and the vinegar on those banana peppers, we're going to get a nice little meal here.
Woohoo.
Sorry to my buddy Adam, who I got to take on showings after this.
All fitness challenges are off today.
Yeah, you're going to have to run an ultra marathon, which we're going to talk about. I'm going
Yeah.
to have to keep trying for a triathlon. And
I'm not
John,
doing,
I don't
I'm
know
not
what you're doing,
anything,
but
no.
okay, cool. Let's try them.
Yeah, let's get
All
into
right.
it.
All right,
There you go.
I'm excited. Noon Whistle, and you said this was canned yesterday, right?
That's what they told me. Yeah, we stopped in
cool.
yesterday. It's Gummy Vortex is the name.
Very
So,
cool.
a really good line of IPAs out in Lombard. Real small brewery.
Government warning: according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy. Well, I'm okay. And
This can design.
that's really cool. The cap,
Yeah.
the whole cap comes
Oh,
off.
wow.
Wow, that makes you
I
drink
didn't
it
even know that.
faster. Okay, I'm gonna start with Joe. I'm gonna take a bite and then I'll take a sip and then a bite. Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, it's tasty.
It's tasty. It does have that kind of like a fruit flavor to it almost.
Yeah.
Like it's
Like a grapefruit.
yeah. And then a bite of the pizza. John, this is all live, huh? I gotta
This
take this
is
giant
absolutely.
bite. That's really good. You were my favorite guests already. All right, so tell us about the Red Arrow Tap Room, kind of the concept behind it.
Yeah, so we've got two locations, one in Elmhurst and then one in Naperville. We started about 2.5 years ago. And what we wanted to do was solve a lot of the problems of the restaurant industry. So if you go to a restaurant, you may have issues with ordering a beer from the bartender or getting your order right with the server. What we've done is use technology to make it really simple for the customer to come in, try a lot of different self-pour beers, and then also order your food from a table. So we're trying to eliminate a lot of the guest pain points that happen in the restaurant industry.
And what's cool is you can sample beer, right? So I was reading on the website,
Yeah.
you basically pay per ounce.
That's right. So we have 48 taps. Nobody's drank them all in one visit. Challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah,
Wait,
there
how
we
many
go.
How many beers is that? A pour and like an ounce of beer.
It would be 48 ounces, so almost 3.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's an interesting cocktail if you mix
That's right.
48 different beers. Very interesting cocktail. But basically, we charge by the ounce. Guests that come in, we give them a card after we check their ID, and that card turns on the tap, and it's almost like a gas pump, but for beer.
How
But more
cool.
tastier, of course.
Very cool. And the beer that you guys pick, you said is mostly kind of craft, local.
Yeah, one of our core values is to support the community and other entrepreneurs. And we source, most of the beer that we serve is local, and it's made by small breweries that are independent, certified independent. So some of the breweries deliver the beer themselves. It's the brewer dropping it off in a van and unloading it and stuff. So, and it's fresh. That's the great thing about local craft beer. So with the 48 different options that we have, we've categorized them by style, and you can try an ounce or 2 ounces or pour a full pint and really sample what we have.
What I love about that is, and we're talking off air about this too, is when you go in, and I like beer, but if I see a bunch of taps and I haven't tried 6 of them, I might ask a bartender, or somebody might ask a bartender, hey, do you like that one? And beer's a very, it's a personal taste thing. Mm-hmm. But if I drink one of them and I don't love it, I'm probably not going to try something else that's new. I'll just go back to, if you like Coors Light, you're going to go to Coors. If you like a 312, you might just go to whatever you like. So you don't sample that much. So I love the idea because I feel like I would sample so much more beer if I could just have little taste tests of each one.
Yeah, and you may not know much about the brewery, so if you touch the screen above the tap, it tells you about the brewery.
Cool.
It tells you where it's brewed and the style of beer. Instead of having bartenders, we've sort of repurposed their role as beer ambassadors. So these are
Nice. I like
attendants that help you find that perfect pour. Many of them are professionals that work for fun at Red Arrow Tap Room,
Yeah.
and many of their wives
They
appreciate.
just drink. They drink all day.
Well, they some after their shift will have a beer or two, but they're very knowledgeable about beer and they're passionate about it. So instead of having a bartender that's really busy, that might not want to even pour like a flight of beer, these beer ambassadors are there just to talk about beer. And what kind of amazing job is that, just to talk about beer and get other people excited about craft beer in the local breweries?
And that's awesome because for them, like you said, they're not a bartender that's running from one side of the bar to the other side of the bar. Somebody wants, a martini, somebody wants something else. They can just work on what they're passionate about. They love beer and they just hang out and chat about beer.
Yeah, and their wives love it.
Yeah, because when they come home, they don't have to chat about the beer to their wives.
Exactly. And the folks that we have as beer ambassadors, many of them have day jobs. They're professionals. We have doctors, real estate agents that, maybe they work a few shifts a week and they just engage with customers and get them excited about craft beer.
That's so cool. So you guys are in Elmhurst and Naperville. What came first?
Elmhurst, yeah.
Elmhurst.
We opened about 2.5 years ago.
And so Naperville is recent.
Yeah, about 6 months ago.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we're just, in addition to the beer, we're, we do self-service where you can order your food at the table. So we're actually a serverless restaurant.
That's cool too.
And we have a mobile app as well. You can order food from the app, so that makes it easy for guests. We're also, one of the things that we've done a little bit different than most restaurants is we eliminated gratuity.
Nice.
So all of our staff is compensated much higher than normal wages for a restaurant. And in addition to that, we do a revenue share program where we take all the sales, we pull them together and share it with the entire team, front of the house and back of the house.
Wow, good for you guys.
Yeah, so it's a team-based compensation model that the folks that work for us get paid more than regular restaurants, but we have less of them. So.
And I presume that it's a less stressful working environment because obviously working in the industry, having to serve food and beer, if nobody comes in, that's a very stressful day, and it goes home with you. So it's I don't think I've ever heard of a bar restaurant using kind of the profit share, gratuities gone idea. What a cool platform. And you guys are doing a lot of tech work with this as well, right?
Yeah. So we're kind of a tech company that sells beer and barbecue. We do great smoked meats. But what we're really trying to do is better understand how we can eliminate a lot of the customer pain points and also find out what our customers prefer and then better market to their needs. So in the news this week, McDonald's bought a big tech company and they're trying to personalize the guest experience. We've been doing that for 2 years now, so we're a little bit ahead of that. But what we're trying to do is find what you may like and then make recommendations when you come in and then sort of personalize your experience. So I think that's where a lot of the restaurant industry is going, and I think we're kind of ahead of it with the technology that we have.
Awesome. What was your background before you did this?
I was a consultant, so I worked for a large consulting firm and then also had my own firm for a while and worked with a lot of restaurants and franchisees on helping them improve their operations and adopt technology.
It's interesting because you had a lot of oversight and a look into some of the pain points, like you said, of restaurants and that business. Whereas a lot of people I feel who've come on and they own restaurants had somebody in the family who had a restaurant. And they said, well, it's been in the family, so I'm going to get in the restaurant business again. It was almost you got into it from a pain/problem solving standpoint.
Yeah, I would say that's sort of it. I love craft beer, right? And I always hated when you go into a bar and you just really can't try a lot of it, you know, because of the bar, it's busy. I always hated when my order got, put in incorrectly by the server, so we kind of limited that. I like the idea of being able to customize what I want when I order it, and we can do that now with tablets at the table. I didn't like the tipping model. I think there's better ways to sort of incentivize team members, so we got rid of that. We're also doing a lot of innovative things around capturing data, like when guests come in, if we have technology that can see when they come back, so we can measure a lot of the operational metrics of the restaurant, then we can market to them. So we can do smart marketing campaigns where, let's say you come in, you order a kids item, maybe a week later you might get an offer that says, here's a free kids meal on Wednesday. So we can really look at the transactional data of the guest and then market to them specifically, which I think is more than most restaurants can do because most customers are anonymous once they leave the restaurant.
I mean, it's brilliant. There's so many people pay to get data like that. I mean, we have one of my side businesses is a tech startup, but in the real estate world. And when we were talking to consultants and people who were in that space, they said all the money's in the data now. Data is so valuable, and you guys are pooling this data and then marketing back to the customer in a strategic way.
Yeah,
Smart.
And personalizing. You come in and the table tablet pops up, and you might see what's trending on the restaurant, and you can order that item. We can look at the beers that are poured, how many ounces are poured per pour, all the way down. There's a lot of great insights that we can get to make a better experience for our guests.
How often does the beer selection change? Because you got 48 of them.
Yeah,
That's a lot of craft
it's
beer.
a constant rotation.
Okay.
So we're putting anywhere from 20, 25 new kegs a week. So that list is always sort of rotating. So when you come in, each day there's a few new beers on. So we manage that through good planning, and it's by style category, so there's a good representation of all the styles, like IPAs, Belgians, and wheats. So you can pretty much, any style, there's going to be 4 or 5 beers in that category.
Do you have a favorite? I mean, it's like asking what your favorite kid is.
Yeah, I like IPAs. I'm more of an IPA guy. I do like to try other beers. I prefer IPAs. I think everybody has their style of beer.
Yeah.
They may have not found it yet, but there's a style for everybody.
Well, they should go to your restaurant/bar and try more stuff so they can find it. I mean, I feel like that's the inherent problem with figuring out what kind of beer you like. Either you got to drink a crap ton of it, and either you're going to be wasted or you get in bad shape. And where are you going to go to be able to taste test all of that stuff? You got a lot of wine tasting. You don't have a lot of beer tasting events in the city of Chicago. Just go to you guys in Elmhurst or Naperville and taste a bunch of it.
And we also find that customers taste more. I mean, we don't want anybody to overconsume, but
That's right, John, when you go there.
yeah. So,
Mind yourself.
but if you're not, if you're not selling something to somebody, you go to traditional restaurants and the server's trying to sell you another drink. Here, you just pour at your leisure. So you may try a little bit more than the average restaurant. Most people pour 2.5 beers on their visit.
Okay.
So
That's a good average. Maggie is asking, where's the one in Naperville?
it's downtown Naperville on Washington Street, right in the corner of Washington and Jefferson.
And Naperville is blowing up. I mean, it's in the real estate world, it's blown up. But I think people forget that Aurora and Naperville are the second busiest, I guess, combination of cities outside of Chicago in the state. I think people forget Aurora and Naperville are a big market.
The Naperville restaurant market is second in the state to Chicago, and Schaumburg's like a third.
Really? So it's bigger than Schaumburg?
Yeah, they beat them last year by, I think it was like $5 million.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a close race, but they're number 2 right now.
That's awesome.
But Naperville's a great town. But one thing I want to say is when you go to a local liquor commissioner and you explain that you're going to allow people to pour their own beer,
I can imagine that.
You can imagine that conversation. So we do a lot of things to make sure people are safe with our processes, our technology, the standard operating procedures of our staff, and the training. So as we have these conversations with local liquor commissioners, we want to kind of emphasize that safety is important. But there's ways that we can prevent people from over-consuming better than most restaurants because we know exactly what you pour.
I was going to say probably much better because you guys have it technology driven, also very accurate. Whereas a bartender, if they're busy all night, they're not keeping track of how much I drank. I mean, unless I'm drinking, which I do from time to time, unless it's shot after shot of tequila, like this guy's had too much tequila. But if people are passing in and out and they're going, to the bar and then walking away, it's hard to keep track, whereas you guys have actual data.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So that's a safety feature.
Yeah.
But it is interesting as you go to these cities and try to explain, like, here's what we're going to do, So, but I think it's going to be more common. I think if you look out, 5-6 years, most restaurants will have some aspect of self-service. I think we're just ahead of it all right now, which is great. We're trying to be forward-thinking with the tech and the data.
I mean, the last couple of years, when you see the minimum wage going up, you hear and you read all the articles about people getting rid of staff and then putting tablets or computers or a self-service idea behind restaurants and bars. And yeah, you guys are ahead of the curve because that's a conversation that's happening now in the industry, but you guys have been there, like you said, for 2 years now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's emphasis on reducing labor, which is important, but especially in a restaurant business. But it's also about creating a better guest experience. So if you can try your own beer and pour it yourself, that's a better experience for the guest versus trying to wait for a bartender to pour you a pint. And then if you want to order your food, you can order it right at the table and immediately have the order in the kitchen. We also have, similar to the Amazon store, it's express checkout.
Okay.
So we give you a card, and we pre-authorize your credit card when you come in, but when you're ready to leave, if you don't want a receipt, you can just drop your card in an express checkout box and walk out.
How cool is that?
Because you don't have to leave a tip, and it's more of a sort of a frictionless experience in the
Oh,
restaurant.
that really is a cool experience. And you guys do barbecue really well
We do,
as well.
yeah. Pizza goes great with beer, but we have a few flatbreads. But we also do smoked meats as well. So we do 8 different smoked meats in house in both restaurants.
You're singing to my heart right now. We were chatting off air, and a lot of people who are watching who know me know I love my green egg, and it's barbecue's big, beer is big, and you guys are in the right portion of that business.
When you come home every night, you smell like barbecue. So that's one of the drawbacks. It's barbecue goes great with beer, and so does pizza, of course.
Do you guys have any plans of expanding? I mean, Naperville's recent, obviously. But
Yeah. So
spots?
the goal was to sort of build out the prototype, which was Elmhurst 2.5 years ago, and then scale it to a higher volume location. Right now, with the unit economics of the restaurant and how that particular restaurant performs, related to labor and all the other costs that go in a restaurant, we outperform a lot of competitors in the same space, like by a big margin. So what we're doing now is franchising. We've sort of operationalized the entire restaurant all the way down to standard operating procedures, and we're getting ready to franchise out the concept.
Very cool. So Chicago-based, or are you going to go national with it?
We have interest in Chicago. We're looking at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Texas, and then we have some operators out in Seattle that are very interested.
Okay,
So
Texas is going to love the barbecue.
yeah, well, that might be a little challenge. They do barbecue really well down in Texas.
They're going to expect some real good barbecue. But you're probably going to get more people in the kitchens that are accustomed to cooking Texas
absolutely.
barbecue.
A lot of expertise down there.
And this is your first go at franchising?
Yeah,
The franchise world?
exactly. Yeah, so we
cool.
just filed, and we're getting ready to make the offer. We haven't done official marketing, but we've had a lot of interest already.
I can imagine. It's a great concept. So is the Tap Fill Station the kind of tech arm or the franchise arm of that?
Yeah, so Tapville Station will be the new name going forward for franchisees, and same concept, but just the new name. So.
And then locally, when you guys are going outside of the Chicagoland area, still going to look at local breweries? And
Yeah, the model is to really support wherever we're located, the local brewery scene.
Cool.
Even if you come into our tap room now, all our photos on the wall are local breweries and entrepreneurs. So that's one of our core values, is to support the community. So any new locations will support their local brewery scene.
and it was off air, but I think the average person who drinks a beer doesn't realize how much goes into making beer. I'd gone to a hop farm and worked for a day on it, watched them harvest, and it was crazy to watch how much labor went into from them harvesting or even planting hops to now us drinking this. It's a crazy amount of effort.
It's a crazy amount of effort, and it's a lot of passion that a lot of these breweries have. It's a very nice community where people help each other, even though they're competitors. But it's a lot of risk that these entrepreneurs take to form a brewery, and they quit their day jobs. They take out SBA loans, and they buy all the equipment in a pretty competitive market. So it's more than just the ingredients and the time, but it's the passion that goes into it.
Yeah.
And what we like to do is just celebrate that. That's kind of one of our
awesome.
values. So.
I bet the bankers look at them the same way that the liquor commission looks at you when they come in for that SBA loan and say, would like some money to go brew some beer.
Well, actually, the equipment's worth a lot, so there's a lot of collateral there. And some of the equipment over the years, because of such a demand for breweries, the equipment appreciates.
Interesting.
So there may be advantages if the bank had to repossess, but yeah, there's it's a lot that goes into it, and it's you can taste it in every drop or ounce.
I mean, this noon whistle is really good. Mm-hmm. John, I don't know if you can zoom in on it. And where can they buy this? I mean, obviously through you guys.
Yeah, they do distribution, and then you could go to their tap room out in Lombard.
Okay.
Right on Roosevelt. Great tap room, and you can buy it right there.
Very cool. You got it?
Yep.
And obviously, I'm not going to try to turn this over so it spills on the table, but this is a really cool can.
Yeah, there's a story behind the can, but I'll leave that out. But it's a new design that was approved, but it is a cool can.
Are you starting to see this sort of can pop up more?
Yeah, it's a very more common can.
I've never seen it, but
I've never seen it either. I loved it. I'm like
Yeah,
a
I
kid
like
looking at this thing like, oh,
yeah,
look at that.
I mean it's like
The old Michelob cans you could pull off.
you could like pull off the whole top. Makes you drink faster, I think. But this was awesome. I'm going to segue over to Jonathan, I think, because I think we're going to have a really cool roundtable here with the two of you guys.
Yeah.
Jonathan's the founder of the Chicago Pizza Tours and the Prohibition Tours. I'd heard of both because actually I had seen the buses around the city of
Did
Chicago.
we cut you off?
No, thank God, no.
Okay.
But I probably cut you guys off, knowing my driving habits. John's shaking his head, yes. But I lived in Streeterville for 11 years, so I used to see you guys around almost the last, I don't know, you said 2010, right?
Right. So the pizza tour goes back to 2010, and 4 years later after that, one of my tour guides, came to me with the idea, which then morphed into the Prohibition Tour. So we co-founded that together in 2014. So
Very cool.
yeah, can't believe it's 5 years for that and 9 years for the pizza tours. It's crazy.
And I'm going to read off your quote because I love this, and I'll let you explain this.
Sure.
Explain it to everybody. You said, "There's never really one thing that leads you to quit your sales job, buy a bus, and decide to take out strangers for pizza. Takes a lot of factors to get there." Again, we spoke off air about it, but tell the story because it's a really cool story.
Sure. So I mean, yeah, it's a long. So it starts with having just a deep love for pizza and a passion for pizza. I had this group of friends, growing up. We were always into pizza. So like, you finish the baseball game, the first thing you got to do is go get pizza. You want to go out, hang out with your friends instead of going to the roller rink or the bowling alley or stuff like that. We were always trying to investigate new pizzerias. And a buddy of mine, his older brother got his driver's license. Now we got the okay to drive down into the city. And as long as we go straight to Gino's East and get deep dish pizzas and bring them back for our parents and stuff like that. So, pretty much spent my youth just kind of, checking out pizza. It was just a part of growing up. And I always joke, like, I had these friends. We all went to different colleges. I went to Eastern Illinois, and when I got there, I didn't know anybody there, so I had to make all new friends, which I did. And then 4 years later, or 5 years in my case, when I got out of college, I moved back in with my friends from like grade school and high school. We moved into the north side of Chicago, and I had these college friends that would come visit us on the weekends and stuff. And usually I would drag them out to like 3 or 4 different pizza places, and they would go to a White Sox game or a Cubs game or something like that. But through the course of the weekend, I'd be like, "Oh, you got to try this pan pizza here from Pequod's, or you got to try this, deep dish pizza from, Paisanos or something like that." And I used to joke that I was giving pizza tours to friends for years. It's not until like 2009 that I started writing down how I was actually going to do this as a business. Out of college, my dad was in the promotional products industry, and it was the first startup I was involved with was his startup. He started, Porter Specialty Advertising in 1999. So I'm getting out of college, and I'm like just sitting there at the desk answering phones, writing the customer service, sales. When you're in a small business, it's just 2 or 3 people. You do everything. So that's kind of how I learned, being around small business, and we did that for years. But it's not until like 2008 it starts to roll around. I had these great customers. I loved the business, but really the money started to dry up. The economy was going south. I still had great relationships with these customers. We'd talk to them over the phone. They'd be like, "Well, it was great talking to you, John, but I don't have an order for you." And it got to the point where it was just getting awkward that we were still, having these conversations and talking and all that, but no orders ever came of it. I still had one really good customer that was kind of hanging around, so that was still making my paychecks for me. But it wasn't until literally you couldn't even write this. I get home from my wife and I. She gave birth to our son in March of 2009. We literally get home from the hospital. It's like maybe early April, 9 years ago. And I get the phone call, or 10 years ago, I get the phone call that says, "You know what, we've had the new CEO. He's been in the job for 3-4 months now. He's figured out what changes he wants to make. You're out." So that was literally it. I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I have this baby. He's about 4 days old now, so, and a property in the South Loop, a property in Bucktown, all that." So yeah, it was a real gut punch, and I did what I could at the time. I'm like, my wife was still employed; she was on leave, obviously, but I went and took a job teaching tennis for the city of Chicago. It was like a $10 an hour or $11 an hour job. I don't even remember. But whatever it was, I was just getting any money I could to, put in the pile and see what we could do. So I would teach kids I would try and get new customers in the morning, sell from like 8 a.m. till about noon. And then I would drive to where Maggie Daly Park is right now, was where these tennis courts were. I would drive there and I would teach kids in the afternoon, which is basically glorified babysitting. I was babysitting these kids till their parents picked them up from work.
Don't hit your friend with the racket.
Right, exactly. I would teach them tennis for a few hours, and then there'd be like a 30-minute break or so, and then the adult leagues would come in at night, and then I would teach adults until like 10 o'clock at night. And then I would come home from doing that, and I mean, it's a long day, but when you're teaching tennis, you're on your feet, you're kind of running around with the kids and stuff like that in the afternoon, so you're kind of wired. So I would come home, get home at like 10:30 or so, and I would just like write down, if I was going to do a pizza tour, how would I do it? What order would I want to taste these pizzas in? What stops would I incorporate into it? How would this all work? If I ever, decided to go ahead and do this. And I think I worked the whole summer until fall of 2009, teaching this tennis thing, and then kind of the gig's up. The kids go back to school, so they no longer need me for that. And I can still do lessons in the evening, but I didn't really want to do that for the rest of my life, anyways. So it really started to come to a point where I'm like, all right, here's the business plan. We start working on it. Start going to banks to see what kind of money I get. You guys joked about like going to get a loan You could tell them you're going to go do a pizza tour. All right. So.
when there was no like tours like that.
No, there were no food tours really at the time. There was there was maybe one food tour in Chicago. I was walking. It's all types of food. Yeah, you go in and tell them you're going to do a pizza tour. They're like, what are you talking about? So it was basically taking the money that I had set aside and buying a bus. And I, paid cash for it, just bought the bus. I'm like, all right, it's good to go. Now what am I going to do for a website? Well, those are kind of expensive, but Yahoo's got these templates. Let me see if I could just put one together. And I put together a Yahoo template. You were talking about McDonald's earlier. It was like red and yellow. If I saw the website right now, I would cringe. But it was
laugh.
Yeah, both probably. But yeah, so my wife and I built this template of a website that was just like order your ticket or very basic. And then the hardest thing was that we bought this bus and I was trying to get insurance for it. Like you need general liability insurance, obviously, but then you need vehicle insurance, and nobody knew how to cover it. So I'd have this conversation on a Monday with my insurance guy, and be like, "All right, so here's what we're doing. Let me know how much it is." And I put the phone down and think to myself, "Okay, he's on it. Let me start working on some of these other things." And then Thursday would come around and be like, "I haven't heard from him yet. What the heck's going on? Hey, Tony, what's going on with the insurance?" He's like, "Well, John, I really don't know what to tell you. I can't. It's going to be real expensive," is what we used to keep saying. It's going to be really expensive. And I'm like, "Okay. Well, what is it?" He's like, "Well, I don't know because I can't figure out how to get this covered. You're not a restaurant. You're not a limo company, but you're kind of dipping into both of these worlds. You're feeding people. You're driving them around. It fell in this really gray area. So I ended up having to like abandon it. This went on for months. It took me. I was ready to roll in like March of 2010, but we didn't run our first tour until May because it was literally 2 months of insurance. And then my ticketing company was like, "You got to get insured so we can push this live." They're ready to drop me, and I couldn't believe that of all the things I'm going through here, insurance for the bus was the one thing. Yeah, and nobody knew how to do it because it hadn't been done before, really. Luckily, I tracked somebody else down. They knew what it was, but it was super expensive. It was the 1 year of insurance was almost as expensive as the bus. Which I was like, oh wow,
definitely hadn't planned for.
No, hadn't planned for it. But my thought was, all right, well, it's going to be a little bit more than this much a month. It's a lot of money, but we can figure it out. And they're like, no, that bill's due today. You have to pay for it all up front. That'll cover you till next year. So then I was really like, all right. I pushed all the money in and said, now we're just a website floating in space. I got no money for advertisements or anything like that. Just hope someone finds us is kind of the plan at the time. And and that's exactly how it was. We were this website, this template website from Yahoo's templates, floating in space, hoping somebody just happens to Google Chicago pizza tours and finds us and books 2 tickets. And I'll remember the name of the guy that bought the first tickets. His name was Jonathan Spurrell. His nickname was Bogey. He bought 2 tickets. It was like a second date with some girl, and that was it.
Did he have the whole bus to himself?
Yeah, well, so he bought 2 tickets, and I'm like, all right, first customers. And then I'm like, all right, family and friends, you guys got to come out on this tour. Also, I need to get like at least 4 more people out here. So it was like, I think it was my brother, my mom, a couple other people, all that. But yeah, if he ever calls me again or emails me or anything, I'll definitely send him a care package, and maybe he gets free tours for life or something like that. But I remember his name. Yeah.
He was like, baby, I rented out the whole bus just for us.
And it was like a hungover Sunday for the 2 of them. Like they like their first date was like Saturday night. Probably they went out drinking, and then like Sunday they were like getting to know each other a little bit better. And yeah, there's a pizza tour.
So how did you pick the pizza spots? Because that's the difficult thing to do. There's so many spots.
Right. So we always wanted to do a mix of what I call like culturally significant and then neighborhood pizzerias. So I always knew it was going to be bus driven. It wasn't going to be a downtown walking tour, because when people come to Chicago, they stay at a hotel in the downtown area. They probably go to the Giordano's or Gino's East that the concierge at the hotel told them about, and that's their Chicago pizza experience. So what we wanted to do was make sure we started downtown at a place that was significant to the creation of the deep dish pizza, but that was it for downtown. Then the bus picks you up, and next thing you know, you're out in Hyde Park, or you're in the West Town neighborhood, or Bucktown or something like that, and you're like, wait a minute, where are we? I can't even see the tall buildings anymore or something. But yeah, I just wanted to deliver that real Chicago pizza experience. And it wasn't in the early days, it wasn't super easy to sign everybody up as far as the restaurants, to who we were going to be working with. Again, it's 2010. I come in, I explain to them, my name's John. I'm with the Chicago Pizza Tour, and we would like to feature you on our tour. We're going to bring in thousands of people a year here, and we're going to eat at your place really quickly, and then we're going to be gone. And they're going to know what your food tastes like and all that. And they're all like, what do you mean? So there's some of that. But like, and I remember too, it's like, I was like, all right, what do I do first? Do I get one of the big names on board, or do I get one of the little guys on board? And then, so what I ended up doing was just going right to one of the little guys, which was Coal Fire in the West Town neighborhood. And this is 2010. That was their only location. And I said, the big guys are signed up. I want to put you guys on this as well. Something like that. And they called me back right away. And then next thing I go into Paisano's a little bit later. I'm like, I got all the, the guys from the local neighborhoods. They're already in on this. I got room for one culturally significant place downtown. You want in on this? It was kind of that. But it all came together, and I mean, like, fortunately, I had pulled all my friends and created this Excel sheet, which I still have, and color-coded it from, like, different styles, different neighborhoods, and I said, I didn't tell them what I was doing, but I said, what are some of your favorite pizza places, for, say, tavern-style thin crust? What are some of your favorites for deep dish? What about stuffed? And I was starting to see that, a lot of the ones kept reappearing. So I'm like, okay, I think it would be a good mix if we did this one first, and then we went to this one, and then we featured that pizza at this place. So, like basically research. I was just kind of going in and figuring out how to present it to folks.
So what are the common different types? Because you said deep dish and stuffed, and for me that almost seems the same.
Oh yeah. So they're totally different. Stuffed is like
layperson, right?
Yeah. Stuffed is like the big brother of deep dish. What you have with stuffed is it's more of a traditional pizza dough. You'll see a lot of stuffed places will also do tavern style thin crust. So it's the same dough that they use for their tavern style, but they're going to use a little bit more of it for the stuffed. Now with the stuffed, you take the deep dish pan that you're familiar with, and you kind of line the bottom of it with butter, and then you'll run that dough through a sheeter and make it kind of a uniform shape. Stuff that down in there. It'll be a little bit thicker towards the bottom. Then it's all shredded cheese that goes into a stuffed pizza and your toppings. Then there's another layer of dough that goes through the sheeter a couple of times, gets really, really thin, and they're going to put that layer on top. So that all your toppings and cheese are really stuffed in between two of a drier pizza dough, as opposed to deep dish, where deep dish has got a higher hydration level to it, and it's going to have a lot more oil in the dough mixture. if you were to, you see the guys throwing the dough up in the air. If you were to take a deep dish dough ball and throw it up in the air, it would rip into pieces and oil would fly everywhere. So it's got to be handled very gently. Corn oil or vegetable oil in the bottom of the pan, and you just kind of slowly pad that dough as you spin the pan, work it towards the end, and then it's always slices of cheese that go into the deep dish pizza, and that kind of creates a barrier level in there so that none of the liquidy sauce that goes on top of that gets into the dough and sagafies your crust. And I realize that sagify is not a real word, but I use it on the tour all the time.
Sagify.
Yeah.
Sagify.
At some point, it might end up in the dictionary.
It's in the pizza dictionary now.
Right. So your stuffed isn't as deep dish should be real crispy but brittle. Like cut into it, break it apart. Where stuffed is just this monster of cheese and in between these two doughs and a real heavily cooked sauce. There's usually a pretty good recipe involved with the sauce for stuffed pizza, whereas a deep dish pizza is usually just fresh tomatoes, hand squeezed, put on there, cooked for the first time when they go in the oven.
What's your message for people who say New York pizza is better than Chicago?
Well, it's different. So my wife and I, we love going to New York. I love New York pizza, but it's very different. And like people think of Chicago as like the deep dish capital of the world, and that's true. It was invented here. We do it here better than anywhere else. But for the most part, I always tell this on the tour too in the beginning, is the locals really only eat it on special occasion when people from out of town are visiting us. What we grew up on is a thin crust tavern style pizza, not like this here, but just it's circular cracker thin pizza cut into squares, and it's very different from the thin crust pizza that they have in New York, where you've got sort of the tip sag, and it's a little bit thicker than our thin crust, and it's more of a doughier, breadier type pizza. And all pizza's
You love
good.
pizza.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you're gonna ask me which one's better, I grew up on Chicago pizza. It's Chicago pizza.
How many stops do you make on the tour? Yeah.
So on a tour, we'll stop at 4 stops. Oh. So we work with about 20 places, but you only go to 4 on
4
each one.
slices, or
Yeah.
yeah.
And it ends up, pizza's one of those things where we always order extra. Maybe we ordered a couple different types at each place, so it's more than just 4 slices, really. It's a lot of pizza.
Yeah, I feel like you have to pace yourself.
Oh, for sure. And I mean that we started, we let people know that they're going to have more than 2,000 calories worth of pizza over the next term. Yeah.
There goes our diet, John.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more than a couple thousand calories, but if you like a pizza, love it, that's great. Don't get too used to it, because the next one that we're going to taste drastically different, and try not to overeat, because I really want you to eat at the last stop.
And what's really nice for these restaurants is if somebody loves it and they're Chicago-based, they're going to come back and probably have dinner there.
40% of our customers are locals. It's just people that wanted to do a pizza tour.
Yeah.
It's just, this sounds awesome. Let's do it.
People who lost a bet to their buddy who said they'd take them on a pizza tour.
And I'm looking forward to it.
And Saturdays you guys have pizza and cocktails, right?
Yeah, so
How does that work?
on a typical Saturday, what we'll do is we run our original pizza tour from 11 a.m. till about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Then we run our Prohibition tour from 4 to 7, 7:30-ish. And then the pizza and cocktails tour actually starts where the Prohibition tour ends. So we take that bus out. It's just doing circles all day until we get to the final one. So the pizza and cocktails tour, it's our evening one. That one's going to make 3 stops. You get still about 4 to 5 slices of pizza, a mixture of deep dish, pan, tavern style, and artisanal. And then you're going to get a craft beer or a drink at each place as well.
So if you do the Prohibition tour and you get drunk and then you're hungry, you can do the pizza and cocktails tour and keep your buzz going the rest of the night.
Yeah. It's but I haven't had anybody sign up for that yet. I have people do the
Challenge accepted
yeah.
again.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. I get plenty of people that will do the original pizza tour and then the Prohibition tour. And sometimes they don't even know that they've signed up for both, that they're going to be with us. And my guy will be like, hang here with me. We're going over there right now anyways. So it's kind of a nice surprise for them.
So tell us about the Prohibition tour, because I mistakenly thought, and you said a lot of people do the same thing, thought it was the Al Capone Chicago gangster type tour.
Right. So we started the Prohibition tour in 2014, and it started when one of my the guy who was doing a lot of driving for me, he was also doing a lot of guiding for me, Jonathan Notek. He approached me with the idea of doing a cocktail tour, and we kind of kicked the idea around, and ultimately we're like, if you have a good bartender, there's no real need to leave to go get another cocktail somewhere else. But what if we could attach, one of the most notorious eras of Chicago's history and do a historical tour where we visited these places that acted as speakeasies during Prohibition and continue to operate today. Now we've got a good story to tell. We've got reason to go to these different places, and you can also drink along the way too. So we kind of dove in and started doing some of our research. And much like you, we thought, this tour is probably going to be about Al Capone and Dion O'Banion and all the infamous characters from the beer wars. But what we found is that Prohibition starts really, it dates way back to like the founding of the country, and the level of alcoholism in America in the 1700s.
Joe's like, yes.
Yes, and grog time every day at 11 and 4. Stop whatever you're doing and start drinking. It was like an American pastime. We found that the average American by the age of 15 was drinking on average around 88 bottles of whiskey a year.
Oh, wow.
Right.
They probably still do in high schools.
Yeah. So we learned there were all these different movements, and most of them were women's movements, and because women ultimately really didn't have any rights in this country, and if you were married, you were your husband's property, and John had even brought up, what was happening was that guys were going to the saloon after work and blowing their whole paycheck and then coming home and beating their wives and children. And what they had figured was that, alcohol was an evil. So women started to, work on the eradication of this evil. It's not just the women. Also, there were plenty of other movements that wanted to back Prohibition. But, things, they take time. And this movement goes on. So we know that Prohibition is enacted in 1920 when the 18th Amendment is put into law. But really, it starts 100 years prior to that, and it gets wiped out by the Civil War at one point. It was really close, but the Civil War wipes it out. And there's all these different factors that kind of lead up to it. But by the time Prohibition does get enacted, basically it's a federal law. It goes into effect, and the federal government's like, all right, states, go ahead and enforce this now. And the states are like, whoa. I didn't know I was responsible.
We don't
for
want
this.
to.
Yeah. So and that's where it really becomes kind of a joke. The story kind of goes from there. So the Prohibition Tour is basically a crash course in Prohibition in America. We're going to focus on Chicago as well, who some of the big players were in Chicago that got things done. And we're going to kind of dip in and out of both that. Plus, we're going to go into the places where the actual drinking went on and tell you how it went, down there. So it's a fun, it's basically 4-hour tour or so.
Very cool.
And you can drink along the way. It's not included in your ticket. It's a $45 ticket. So, we spend about 45 minutes in each place, so you can grab a beer or a drink or appetizer or something like that, and then listen to the guide tell you some of the history.
You should see how fast John drinks alcohol in 45 minutes. You guys are in trouble.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that don't know me who might like, who is this guy?
Who is this John guy?
How is he?
Who's this guy in the
standing
corner?
up? Jesus.
He's already drank 7 noon whistles.
I have, and I'm chasing it with the whiskey.
Yeah, the proper 12 in the corner. You actually have a pretty cool story because you grew up in Elmhurst, and you know of John's location in Elmhurst.
Right.
Tell the story.
So when I saw
cool.
that he was going to be here, I'm like, I looked up the location. You're on First Avenue, right by York Road there. And I actually grew up like less than probably like 6 blocks away from there.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But there used to be a craft store, like either the place that you're in or right directly kind of shared that entrance there. And this is going back to like the 80s, early 80s or so. So I would go there as a kid with my mom, and she'd be buying yarn and whatever. It was like what Michael's is today. Then after that, when I was in high school, it was a coffee shop.
Yeah.
But I didn't drink coffee in high school, but it was where all like the local bands could play. Like we had a stage there. Not that I played in bands a lot, but it was basically like the kid hangout, from my high school days. So it went from craft store where I was forced to go there with my mom to high school hangout where we went there with friends to see all the girls and stuff at this place. But now that it's a tap room, I've got a reason to go back there now. So apparently the space just keeps calling to me. Then
I got a great idea. We grab the bus.
Mm-hmm.
We get on the bus.
I like where this is going.
And we'll go there and we'll drink some beer and we'll come back and have some pizza.
Oh, boom. I love it. Love it.
There's some great pizzerias in Elmhurst too. We could even do a tour of Elmhurst. I grew up eating pizza there. So
you're from Elmhurst. Are you from there?
I'm from Plainfield, but I live in Elmhurst, yeah.
Okay, so very
not far.
close. Not far at all.
Yeah.
Was Elmhurst a strategic move for you? Like, was it what made you go to Elmhurst? I'm always fascinated about
there?
how restaurants pick their first spots.
Oh, yeah. It's all about timing, I think, what's available as far as real estate. Elmhurst, there's a lot of development going downtown Elmhurst right now. So we were just trying to get ahead of that, having a restaurant in there. There's a lot of residential buildings going up. I don't know if you've been back lately. There's high rises.
Yeah,
now in Elmhurst.
I know. Yeah, I still have family that lives in Elmhurst, so I'm there all the time.
It's
yeah.
right on the Metro stop, so we chose that as our first location, and then Naperville subsequently because of the volume of downtown Naperville. So.
If you do a non-franchise location in Northbrook, where I live, or Glenview, that would be awesome.
We have interest up there.
Really?
Yeah, I think we're going north next.
Okay.
So there's some interest up there, actually.
Glenview, Northbrook. My business partner
Yeah.
Jeff drinks a lot of beer too. Be consistent customers.
Well, you just throw all your business partners under the bus.
Well, he's
to
a-
hang out with.
the problem is he's an Iowa boy, so he's just like a Coors Light guy.
Oh,
But I
that's
think
not
he'll
beer.
drink whatever.
That's water, for God's
It's
sake.
alcohol
Convert
water.
him.
Is my,
Yeah. I mean, no,
Yeah.
he definitely has. He's a bigger beer fanatic than I am. He watches every week. He's going to send me a text message in 2 seconds, like, "Don't talk shit. I drink more beer than you."
Yeah, Jeff, you and me.
But yeah, the northern suburbs need a.
Yeah, totally. We're going up there
Full
next.
pour. Very cool.
There's some plans. He also has to join our beer club. So you can get a subscription to our beer club every month on the first Tuesday. You pick up your curated 12-pack of beer.
Very cool.
So we look at the data on which you've poured and your prior experiences, and we can curate a 12-pack for you.
Oh, that's cool.
What a
That's
cool
real
idea,
cool. Yeah,
because
yeah.
your breweries obviously then have almost a direct to their customer base connection there, and then the customer who's coming in gets the beer they like.
Yeah.
So you pick it up in store?
Yeah, pick it up
Okay.
in store first Tuesday of the month. We have it in Elmhurst right now. You can purchase one of those. But we're really looking at your data, and then we're curating a 12-pack for you. But we're also using some algorithms because we know what if you drink this style of beer, you may like this style of beer. So we're kind of personalizing that 12-pack for you.
I love that idea. I mean, it's such a rare thing to see a bar restaurant, but you guys, like you said, you're a tech company that caters to beer and food. Compile so much data that you can now introduce somebody to something similar that they love. I mean, it's almost like like you said, you brought up Amazon. You buy something on Amazon, and it says you might be interested in
like
buying
this.
this, and then it's marketing back to you. So you guys are using that idea in a very strategic way. It's a kind of the giver's gain. These breweries must love that idea.
Yeah, and we get a lot of great data that we can share with them too on who their customers are. We can also because in our on our tap wall, our beer wall, it's kind of an equal playing field. There's no tap handles that draw people in. You go to a normal bar, there's this big tap handle.
Yeah.
So customers can really experience the beer evenly, and then if they like it, they'll pour more. So we actually get a report every night. Comes in when we close of all the beers that are poured for the day, and it kind of force ranks them on which one poured the best. So it's really interesting when you get really good beer on the wall. It'll always go to the top of the list for multiple days too. So it's not just the branding, but it's actually the quality of beer. So
Interesting.
so it's
Was the tech, because I got into the tech world, I just had an idea and I got into the tech world. Was the tech world and kind of the data play, which has become a big thing, something you were always interested in, or did you fall into that after you got into this idea?
It was
of
part of the
problem
initial
solving?
concept, is to really look at data and really use that to better service guests. So yeah, it was part of the initial concept.
Smart,
Yeah.
fashion forward there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is like the Amazon experience. You buy something, they make recommendations. McDonald's is trying to do that now.
But I like it more because yours is like there's that personal experience too. It's
Exactly.
not just online. They've been to your place and done it. So there's that trust that they have in you when they go ahead and do that. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're getting ready to launch. This may be good or bad for some folks. The personalized pour report.
Okay.
So if you go in and it's an opt-in, we can see all the beers
John
that
opts out.
that you
Yeah, me
pour.
and Jeff.
for the entire month, and then we'll send you a report that sort of ranks all the beers that you poured, and then make some recommendations at the bottom for you that's coming on tap soon.
Don't opt in on the joint husband-wife account so she can see, or he can see. Hey, maybe she's drinking more beer than he is. What you're drinking. That's awesome though, because it really is that giver's gain mindset. You're helping the consumer out, but also all these vendors in these breweries must love that idea. Do you get a lot of them reaching out to you saying, "Hey, listen, I'm a brewery. We heard you guys do this."
Yeah, we actually send out a newsletter to them as well.
Okay.
We let them know how their beer is performing at Red Arrow versus other breweries. And our model is to really buy a lot of local beer, so we get a lot of interest from them. And our tap room's decorated with local breweries, and their stories are on there as well. So,
what's the deciding factor to have one? Do you taste test them all, or
no? That would be a lot of. I mean,
a lot of work for you.
Yeah, that's a lot of beer. We're blowing through so much. I can't get to every beer, and nor would I. I think.
Well, you got ambassadors working for you now.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, we've
Beer
got people that do that.
Yeah.
In the
I
organization.
got people that drink my beer for me.
We have a buyer now, and he's looking at what's seasonal, what's popular. We're also given a lot of, like, if you're a small brewery and it's hard to sell your beer to like a bar that might have 10 or 12 handles.
Right.
But for us, we'll give anybody a chance, and we can let them know how it's performing against other beers, and we go through all of our product because when you're pouring it out, it's not a big risk to try something, versus buying a pint at a regular bar.
Right.
So.
How about you, Jonathan? How often do you switch out the restaurants? Have you had the same set of restaurants for a long time, or do you swap them out?
We've what we like to do is add. So the idea is not to take away any, but to add new ones in and create new routes and stuff like that. So it's something that I need to get better at. What ends up happening is we get busy and we just start running our stuff. And now I'm getting customers that are back for the third and fourth time. And I'm like, oh, all right, we've got 2 new ones for you this time, but you're going to visit 2 that you've already been to, So it is something that I'm looking into, and I always got to, we had basically on Mondays you might visit, your off the wall pizza was going to be Peace. On Wednesdays it was going to be Michello. On Fridays you got Coal Fire. So I do need to get better at basically saying, okay, listen, this one's the original, and these are 6 places. You're going to visit 4 of these 6 places. This one is the Second City Pizza Tour, our second one or whatever, and you're going to visit, these are the 6 places you're going to visit 4 of these ones. So there has been demand for that because we have so many repeat customers. When I started the tour, I thought to myself, all right, well, people will take the tour, they'll have a fun experience, and then that'll be it. Nice to know you and all that. But we're getting so many people that have come back to us over the years, and then, even say we have locals that, like, every time somebody comes into town, we're doing another pizza tour or something like that. So we have so many customers that are coming back. So we really need to, kind of work on different routes, different names for different tours, and give people more options, basically.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea for when you have a family member come back in town. Like I always somehow end up on the architecture tour. So if it's at least when
weather
it's
permitting,
weather permitting.
Mm-hmm.
When it's nice out, like I'll just take somebody on there. But what a cool idea! Do that, and then you got to eat a little bit. Go and do this tour with people who come in town. And you get to see, because people do love Chicago's food culture, but especially pizza. I mean, this whole Chicago versus New York thing, it's a thing, but people come to Chicago for pizza.
Right. So when you go on the tour, look at the faces that are on your tour. You'll see the 75-year-old grandma with the 9-year-old grandson. Everybody loves pizza. And that's just what it is. So that's one of the hard things when it comes to marketing. When we're working with companies that are like, we want to be pitching your ideal customer, who buys the tickets mostly. Try to identify your number one customer. We know that women do most of the buying. So we do target women more for that because the husband's like, pizza store? Yeah, I'm in for that. And she sets it up.
Yeah, pizza. I'm in.
But the crowd, we never know until we show up that day what it's going to be. It could be all, kids in their 20s. It could be all couples in their upper 50s. It could be anything, and you don't know until you go.
We really are spoiled in Chicago. I went to Italy last year. I went to Rome, and my cousin lives in Italy, was born in Florence, and everywhere he took me, and we had pizza, we had pasta, he'd be like, isn't this really good? And I'm like, I was like, it's not bad. and he's actually watching right now. Antonio's watching, but he'd be like, what do you mean it's not good? And I'm like, it's not good, but Chicago has such good food. And I'm not going to knock Arkansas, but if I was from like the middle of nowhere Arkansas where they didn't have all these food options, I might be like, oh my God, this is the best food I've ever had in Rome. But I was like, no, pizza in Chicago is better.
Has he been here?
Well,
Yeah, he has.
So
I've taken him out drinking. I don't know if I've taken him out to like a bunch of
Shocking.
different like food tours. He's coming back in July. I don't know if he's going to comment or if he's actively listening, but I saw him pop up. But Chicago's pizza is so good. I tried so much pizza in Italy, and I genuinely didn't. I mean, nothing was bad, but I didn't find anything where I was like, oh, it's better in Chicago.
Well, it's just different. I mean, there's so much competition here. Not that there's not competition in Italy, but that raises the bar for places here. You can't just lower your prices here in Chicago and assume that people will come. If your product is crap, it's crap.
Yeah.
But you probably grew up eating this type of pizza, so that is your what we call the measuring stick pizza. It's what you judge all other pizza by, whether you know it or not, whether it's subconscious. When you're tasting pizza, you're thinking of whatever the first pizza that you loved as a kid. It's somewhere in the back of your mind, and that's how you're judging this pizza going forward. So it's what you're used to. Chicago's definitely, undergone some changes too in its pizza culture. When I was growing up here in the 80s and 90s, it was tavern style pizza was king, and then we had this special thing called deep dish. And like 2001, when Peace, came in and set up shop in Bucktown, they brought New Haven style pizza. I'd never heard of it.
Is that what we were having today?
Yeah, that's what we're having
Haven?
today.
Okay.
So, I mean, when they first, I was living in Bucktown at the time, and I remember when they opened up, we're like, all right, we called up, we're like, we got a new pizza place, I'm with my buddies that I was telling you about, all right, let's try it. We're hungover on a Sunday, call up, like, all right, yeah, we're going to get a couple of pizzas, we'll come pick them up. And they're like, all right, you want a red, white, or a plain? Well, I don't know what he says red, white, or plain. What are we supposed to do? Hang up. We'll call him back. All that stuff. All right. So, basically it was different style of pizza. This is the New Haven style of pizza. So we finally figured out what we were doing. We ordered it. And I believe the first time we got it, we're like, yeah, it's good, but I don't know what this is. I don't know what it's supposed to be. Why is it cut like this? Why is it, it's good, but it took us a couple of times of eating it to where we got to the point where we're like, oh, I really like this pizza,
Yeah.
And then that paved the way for other ones. In 2006, Spaccanapoli, brought Neapolitan style pizza to Chicago, and Coal Fire shortly after that opened up with a pizza that's forged in a coal oven that hits temperatures of 1,200 degrees and cooks in a minute and a half or so. And then, you get places that bring in Detroit style pizza, like Paulie G's Logan Square. They do Neapolitan style pizzas with American toppings on them, but then they also do their Logan Squares, which is inspired from Detroit style thick crust pizza. But it's really, Derek's take on what that pizza is. So it kind of morphed into his own thing. It's not really Detroit. It's not really anything else. But and Chicago is just in the neighborhoods. It's very accepting of other styles of pizza. So we have our two, the deep dish and the tavern style, and then we can throw stuffed in there as well because we always have that too. But we're also very accepting of other styles of pizza. And where you find that is mostly in the neighborhoods.
Nice. See, New York, we accept other styles of pizzas.
Hey,
John has a question.
Let me ask you. I grew up out on the south side, and there's a place called Vito and Nick's.
Yeah.
It's staple.
84th and Pulaski.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually delivered for Angie's, which is right across the street, 83rd, and there used to be you either liked one or the other. You couldn't like both.
Right. It's
But
like
how far do you from home base, whatever
So,
you consider? How
yeah.
far out do you go?
I would love to be able to go there on a tour. It's a special place.
Yeah.
But there's just the issue of traffic in Chicago.
Yeah,
and
sure.
A ride from say Millennium Park area to 84th and Pulaski on a Saturday afternoon could take you upwards of an hour and
Yep.
10. So we don't quite make it that far. The farthest south that we go is Italian Fiesta Pizza, which is at 47th and Lake Park.
Hyde Park.
Okay.
Yeah, down in Hyde Park. And then up north, we'll go up to Spaccanapoli in the Ravenswood neighborhood as well.
That's
So
still a
about
big swing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah,
That is,
you definitely get a chance with the logo or the logo. The motto that we came up with, when we first started was to see Chicago one slice at a time. So
Very good.
I like that.
Okay.
And the magic question, I asked you off air, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
asking who your favorite kid is.
right.
Favorite pizzas?
Everybody knows it's my daughter. Oh, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. No. My favorite pizza, it's one of those things where, I just talked about how you've got these different styles and all that. It really depends on what you're in the mood for. People will often ask me, oh, what's your favorite pizzeria? And I'm like, oh, that's the easiest question in the world. Q's in Hillside. They're like, really? Oh, is that the best tasting pizza in here? I'm like, no, that's where I ate when I was a kid. That's my go-to. It is very good. I'm not knocking it, but it's like, yeah, that's the one I grew up on. But it just depends on what you're going for. Like I say on the tour, if I'm out to dinner with my family Saturday night at Paisano's, that's really great. If it's Friday night with the guys watching the baseball game, Flo and Sano's in the South Loop is great.
Yeah.
I love them all. It really depends. At Coal Fires, they're doing some amazing stuff over there. Changing toppings
really
and
good.
flavor combinations. So it's really tough to just pick one. Luckily, I own a tour company, and I can just go in and out of all of them, and I'm not stuck. Because that's another question I get a lot too: is, well, why don't you open up your own pizzeria? I'm like, oh God, that sounds horrible. We work like 80 hours a week in one place and never eat anybody else's food. That's not for me. I want to go explore and take people and show them what I like about these places. Paisano's is our home base. It's where we start most of our tours. So it's definitely got a special place in my heart.
Well, you guys are popular now, so you can probably call any new pizza place and say, hey, listen.
Yeah, well,
Chicago
definitely.
Pizza Tour wants some pizzas.
Well, I need a filter on my phone for when the pizza places call me and say, hey, listen, we serve this pizza. You got to bring your people in here.
It's nice how it's switched now.
Yes,
where you have to call
exactly.
everybody, and now you're getting the calls.
Exactly. In 2010, they didn't know what I was talking about. Now they're all like, why aren't you coming here? What are you doing? I'm like, oh, that's the thing, too, that kills me. There's so many great pizza makers in Chicago, and we can't go to them all.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't work with what we're doing or something like that, but I love their pizzas. So it's not a knock if you're not on the tour, basically, is what I try to tell people. There's a little over 2,000 pizzerias in the Chicagoland area.
What's the most unique pizza out there? Like, it's just sort of like
That's
off
a good
the wall.
question, too.
I'm curious to
I
know,
think it's
like,
got to be Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder in Lincoln Park. That pizza pot pie thing that they've got. It's a weird cooked in a crock with like a blend of cheese that's pulled across, and it's very flaky pastry type dough, and it's not shareable. It's just a big hot mess on your plate. And I think they're definitely the most unique pizza in Chicago, maybe anywhere, quite honestly.
I've been there, and it's you don't expect it when it comes out. It's just like you're like, wait, what is this? That's good.
Did you panic when you're waiting for your table too?
Yeah.
When you're sitting there, like the guy doesn't take your name or anything. Yeah. So you literally walk in, the old guy comes up to you, he's like, how many in your party? And I'm like, 2. And he's like, okay, 50 minutes, and then walks away.
Packed.
And the place is packed. And like people will be eating like right here, and I'm like standing there like this with my wife, like, and like 48 minutes into it, you're like, this guy has no clue who I am. He doesn't know when my table's coming up. But sure enough, he comes right back up to you, goes, okay, this way, let's go.
Been 50 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
no buzzer, no text.
Nothing.
Just,
No. Absolute opposite of tech. There. It's one guy's memory.
Somebody that said favorite deep dish, Giorgio's in Barrington.
It's really good. Okay. I bought a bus up in Crystal Lake. They got a location up in Crystal Lake also. I bought a bus in like Algonquin or Crystal Lake. It all kind of runs together when I'm up that far. Really good pizza. It reminds me a little bit of what Gino's East used to taste like in the 80s and 90s.
How many buses do you have now?
So we got 2 buses now.
Okay.
It started out with one 15-passenger bus, and then that turned into a 19-passenger bus, and then we got it into a 21-passenger bus. Then we got a 23-passenger bus. Then I bought a 25-passenger bus, but I kept the 23. So I don't even know how many buses we've gone through at this point, but it's a lot of repairs have been made to these buses, a lot of tows at some point or another. They're all diesel engines. Something's going to happen. But yeah, it's been a lot of different buses. Now we'll rent vehicles as well. So another thing I didn't anticipate when getting into this was that there was going to be so much corporate business coming our way, and we actually have clients that they'll sign up 25 tours a year. Wow. And we'll pick up their groups in the evening, take them on a private pizza and cocktails tour. What I always tell people is, if you're going to take your clients out to dinner, you're going to go to one place. You're all going to sit wherever you sit at the table. And you can reach about 6 people that you're talking to. with a pizza and cocktails tour, you're going to go in and sit at 3 different restaurants. You're going to have a great Chicago dining experience, and you're going to get the opportunity to network with, way more than just the 6 that are in your, because you're reshuffling the deck every time. You're getting on the bus, getting off the bus, sitting at a different spot in the next restaurant and all that. So that's one of the biggest things in our business is all the corporate outings that we do.
We should pick a date and just put together, have some of our audience members come with us.
Guests.
Sell some tickets through you.
Main
bring
Street
some people
too.
out.
Matt sponsors a Main Street outing every six or so weeks. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
How about favorite beers from you, Joe? I know you said you don't have one there now, but you grew up being a beer fanatic. If you had to you too, if you had a gun to your head, a couple beers, growing up, what was the...
I like Greenbush Brewing out in Sawyer, Michigan. That's one of my favorite breweries, right off of the Red Arrow Highway up in Michigan.
Oh. Was that a thing? Did that...
Yeah, so the idea of Red Arrow actually was formulated on the Red Arrow Highway. So, yeah, after having a few beers. Sounded like a great idea.
Somebody else was driving you on the highway?
Of course. The Red Arrow Highway, Greenbush Brewing up in Michigan is one of my favorite breweries. There's a great brewery in Oak Park called Kinslager where they focus on lager beers. It's a really good brewery. I love Noon Whistle out in Lombard. There's a lot of them. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on.
Depends on your mood, like him.
Yeah.
I live walking distance to Kins Lager, so.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're awesome. But the style of beer is IPA for me. That's kind of my style.
Very cool. Yeah. And we always ask this question, and I'm going to ask both of you. Ask you first, Joe. If you had any advice for somebody who's going to be an entrepreneur, it doesn't have to be in the tech/restaurant world. Any advice you could give somebody?
Yeah, I think it's all about having an idea. It's about solving a problem, but it's also about perseverance. It's sort of like executing on that idea. It's really easy to start a business and then get it 6 months in and then quit. I mean, that's what a lot of people do. But it's really about long-term sustainability, and it goes a lot back to my ultra running. We talked a little bit about running 50-mile races and 50Ks. That's how I see business. It's a long run, and it's about being consistent. So I think as advice to entrepreneurs, it's not easy. There's a lot of risks that you're going to take, but it's really about persevering over the long term.
I love that. And the ultra running, to me, is crazy. And I know to Jonathan it's crazy. I mean, I'm doing the triathlon. Yeah. Did you just do it because you drink a lot of beer? And you're like, no, I got to stay in shape?
Yeah, no, I just I love running. Okay. I just, even since high school, I ran track. And I just fell in love with running. And I just like the time that you get by yourself to really reflect on things. So.
Was it a progression? I'm always interested when I hear this. Was it like I ran a half marathon and then I ran a marathon and then I was like, I'm going to challenge myself a little bit more, and then you did the 50?
Yeah, I think that's like for most runners, it's like that. I don't think people just jump into the 50-mile race. It's local 5Ks, then you do a 10K and then a half, then a marathon, and then you're like, well, I can go an extra 5-6 miles. Then you do a 50K, and then you kind of build up to a 50-miler.
I think most people stop at the marathon, but that's the thing. Entrepreneurs typically push themselves a little bit harder than others, and if your hobby is running, it makes some sense.
Yeah, and for me, it was just I just enjoy it, and there's a great running community as well, and a lot of runners drink beer too. Yeah. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So. But yeah, I think advice to entrepreneurs, it's really about long term. That's the key, and just being consistent. It's not easy. When you're running a 50-mile race and you're running for 10, 11 hours, you're going to have ups and downs. You got to go up and down hills. But it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. You're going to have bumps in the road, but you just got to be consistent. Just keep pushing forward.
You don't want to quit.
The other. Yeah.
You just don't.
You don't. You never quit.
How about you, John?
So I had a couple of things. The one thing that I've always found is just to be flexible. Like, have your ideas, how you want to do stuff, and stick to them, but be ready for anything that could throw a wrench into it, and just be flexible with it, and be able to take feedback, from your employees as well. Sometimes they're going to come up with great ideas that maybe was super obvious that you just didn't come up with, and be able to do that. The other thing is too is like, take your criticisms and stuff, but you don't have to always agree with them, but just listen to them. There's so many locals that I'll meet too that'll be like, Chicago Pizza Tours, I've never heard of this. And I'm like, well, that's all right. So you should advertise. And I'm like, Well, no, seriously, you should advertise. You just, okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, like, we don't need everybody finding out all at once. Like, hey, you found out about us? Great. Come check us out whenever you get a chance. But, we're doing okay. We're sold out this weekend, so it's cool. But, like, the one thing that I've always, tried to be is just kind of stay to your convictions, what you want to do, but be willing to be flexible in them as well. You never know which way you're going to have to pivot.
Awesome. What do you do outside? I mean, eating pizza is almost more damaging than drinking beer. And you're a thin guy. Do you have to work out every day, or do you eat the pizza every day?
I do enjoy working out. I do eat pizza a lot. I'm not going to say that I eat it every day, but it's all about portion control. Although I already had 2 slices here since we've been sitting here.
I've been wanting to finish my
slice. I already did my second. It's portion control. Like, none of this stuff is processed. Like, if you look at the big box stores, Domino's, Papa John's, Pizza Hut, they got to buy their stuff in bulk. It's processed. It's got preservatives in it. Local mom and pop places are they're just getting flour. They're mixing it with water, salt, and yeast, and they're using real cheese from Wisconsin. None of this stuff is super bad for you. Just don't eat too much of it. Don't go out and do a pizza tour every day. Like, if I'm guiding tours, I'll probably eat at one of the stops, on the day, but I'm not going to eat at all 4. So yeah, it's just, other than that, I do enjoy working out. I ran, but I stopped at that half marathon. I got done with that half marathon. I'm like, all right, that's enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
I always say the original marathon length, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, the person ran it and then fell over and died. He was letting people know that the army's coming, and then he just ran for the Battle of Marathon, and humans aren't supposed. So everyone's like, you want to run a marathon? I'm like, first of all, I got short legs. And it takes a lot of effort for me to get there. Second of all, the first person who did it, who wasn't intending on doing it, just died. So I think I shouldn't have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, I have friends that have done ultra marathons and some crazy stuff, and it really is a mind over matter thing, which is a lot like business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Got one coming up?
No, I'm getting back into training now. The last 2 years have been sort of a flurry of like being involved with the business. So, free time is kind of minimal right now. But
and you got to the training regimen. I mean, doing the triathlon now, my training days are longer, but running an ultra marathon, you have to run close to some of those distances. So what are you running, 6-7 hours sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, you'll get up to 20-25 miles for a training run.
Okay.
Wow.
So you only run half the distance in a training run?
Yeah, it's hard to really like fully go 50 miles in a training run. So you'll run like maybe a 50K white beer long run, which is about 31 miles.
So the rest of it's like on grit and determination.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking too, right?
Because when you ran the half, you probably ran a half, or close to it. You're like,
I would say like 8 or 9 miles like the week before. So I thought to myself, all right, it's 4 more miles. But yeah, I think somewhere around 10 miles, I was like, oh, geez, I still got to go 3 more miles. And I think I misjudged it. I think I was starting my 10th when it was really, or I was starting my 10th and I thought I was starting my 11th. So I started picking up the pace and then, oh, God, I was like.
Imagine getting through 30 and knowing you got to do 20 more.
No, there's no way.
Basically, you got to do a half marathon and a 10K still.
The key is not to think about that.
Yeah.
It's, how do I get to that next tree, right? This is all trail running, too.
Yeah.
So how do I get to the next tree, and then the next tree, and the next tree? Don't think too far ahead. Just, you know where you got to go, but just focus on.
I calculate everything in my head. So if I got to run 5 miles and I've run half a mile, I'm like, okay, 9 more of those.
I'm like you. Yeah, I can't stop thinking about it. I'm like, oh.
So at 50 miles, I'm like.
You don't want to get 20 miles in and say, I got 30 miles to go.
Yeah,
you don't want to think
25.
about that.
Just, you're almost at a marathon. You're like, I got to do this again.
Get to the next tree.
Yeah. I guess at his distance, you got to have that mindset.
Right. I'm like you. My mind's always turning like, ooh, all right, 2.3. So that means I'm just, at this time I've done this,
John, how about you? You run any distances longer than a couple miles?
No, 5Ks. Not even 5Ks. A 5K. I'm not a big fan of running, but Maggie does them. Maggie does them, and she likes them. So it was one of the things for 2017, I guess it was, just to check it off. We did the Santa Hustle, and it was fun as hell.
The 5K?
The 5K up and down Lake Michigan. But I get bored. I really do. I get bored. And that's why I can't
Well, I think after a certain distance, it really then just becomes mind over matter. I mean, at some point, I mean, and I don't know what that number is. It's probably different for everybody. For me and you, probably at that 10 to 13 miles. But
earlier.
For you at 30 or 35, you're probably like, my body's shutting down.
Well, you can also listen to a good podcast while you run too.
Yeah. AE Wheelhouse, ultra marathon right there.
You're right.
So bump and set for that spike.
That's good. I like that. Hey, real quick, I got a question for you. Joseph, you made mention over every tap, there's a screen.
Yeah.
That tells the story of the brewer or the brewery.
Yeah.
So are you talking like a video screen or just like a short story?
No, so we have they're actually iPads that run, and there's a little screen that has a photo of the beer, and then like a logo, and if you touch the screen, it tells you more about
just like some beer. Copy as far as. Oh, that's cool.
Exactly, and then when you put your card in, it then turns on like a gas pump, and you see how many ounces, and then it'll kind of run as you pour the beer.
Oh, all right, very good. I like it. All right, I didn't know if every single one had a little video. I thought, man, the rate of turnover, you must be doing videos every week.
Yeah, no, but we spend a lot of time on the photos that we use. Because we really want to highlight what the beer looks like.
Oh, of course.
Sometimes a photo of the product and stuff, so you can see,
nice.
Very good. Beer looks like. So.
And it's, again, for the breweries themselves, that's a pretty cool thing that you guys are able to tell their story, because a lot of them don't have the budget to go out and start marketing their story. They might have a Facebook page. You guys are telling the story for them directly to consumers.
We also do a lot for charities as well. So we have our charity tap of the month. So we like to pour it forward.
Okay,
so
nice.
we choose a local charity and a local beer, and there's a sign above the tap, and every time you pour that beer, we donate 5 cents per ounce back to the charity.
Very cool.
So we're doing a lot for local charities.
Nice.
It's a great program.
I bet those beers are popular.
They are, and it gives the charity a lot of awareness. So if it's a smaller charity that people aren't aware of, they see it. There's a little blurb about the charity, and then at the end of the month, we tabulate how many ounces were poured, and we write them a donation check.
Good for you guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nice.
What a cool way to give back.
Yeah.
And to get the word of a lot of those charities out.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Good thought.
Well, we went way over, but thank you guys both for coming on. I cannot wait to come out and drink a ton of your beer an ounce at a time. Might take that 48-ounce challenge and be sick the next day. I might be hungover enough to come and then do the pizza tour, but no, I think John and I will probably do that during the day.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll link up after the show, and I'm excited to come and taste all the pizzas. I'm excited to learn about the pizzas. I mean, I feel like being a Chicago guy, I should have known a little bit more about pizzas and the different styles, because I think thin and deep dish. I mean, I think that's how a lot of people think, and you educated us on that today.
Yeah, even deep dish and stuffed. The difference between that, that's cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now I know some stuff. So next time I go out to order pizza with people, I'm gonna.
You're really.
I love throwing facts out that I learned. I learned a lot of facts on WheelHouse when we had the wine people in. I'm like, I know some stuff.
Exactly.
What happens is you're going to go down this road. You're going to take the tour. You're going to start learning a little bit more about dough structure and fermentation in there, and then you're never going to be able to look at pizza the same way. You're going to get a pizza somewhere. You're going to be like, how long did they let this rise? You know?
Well, when my dad orders Domino's, I'm be like, Dad, I don't want this crap. Send it back.
John, you're giving us way too much credit. we are not that smart. Let me tell you what.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
speak for yourself.
I tell you what. When we do go on the pizza tour, I want you to watch him and report back to me if he's like, ooh.
He's just going to be shoveling it in. And
No
eating
shit.
it.
Do you still do a lot of tours yourself?
I don't do as many. So we've kind of grown as a company. Still, like when we first started out, I gave every single tour for the first 2 years, and I think I had maybe 2 different drivers. We've grown to at our largest, we were like a company of 11, I believe. I think right now we're 7 or so. So we do need to ramp up a little bit for the summer months. But it's kind of my job to really do more research on the pizza places, keep up relationships with the owners, and then make sure I give enough shifts to the people that are working part-time. I've got one guy that works full-time. Actually, one guy and one lady that kind of work full-time with me, and then the rest are part-timers. So it's, up to me to kind of keep their shifts and make sure it's enough money for them to make a living on. And then I also, it affords me the opportunity to do other cool stuff, like write for pizza magazines and do some consulting work and stuff like that. So
I don't know, the producers of a big time WheelHouse podcast come on the tour. We want the guy.
Sure. No, I got you. Just put in the request. We want John.
We
Fortunately,
want the man.
the guy that I started the Prohibition tours with, Jonathan Notek, his name is Jonathan as well. So all these reviews, they're like, we want Jonathan, and it's like, well, there's a couple of us here.
We're gonna get one of us.
He's been guiding more tours these days than I have. But no, all of our tour guides are great. Danny does an amazing job, and Elizabeth does a great job on the Prohibition tours too. I don't want to leave anybody out, but it's fun, and I'll make sure I'm out for you guys.
Awesome, I appreciate it. Thank you guys both
Absolutely.
for coming on. This noon whistle was freaking awesome.
Oh yeah, honest to goodness.
Yeah, it
Really
really
good
was
stuff.
good. I mean, I'm not just saying it because it's on air. It was really, really good. Can's cool. It's basically done.
It's empty.
It's empty. And the pizza was amazing. So thank you guys for coming on. I can't wait to come out to Red Arrow, and I can't wait to do the pizza tour with John and pay up my bet.
Boom.
So what do we got next week, John? Do you got a
Next
graphic
week,
for it?
we have, speaking of great charities, we got Johnny Immerman from Immerman Angels. People who have cancer, he associates people who had that same type of cancer to help them get through it. It's amazing. What was a realtor? I can't think of her name. We had her as a guest, and that's how I learned about
Melanie?
Yes.
Melanie.
Just he's a ball of energy. And we have a gentleman named Paul Audia. He's a photographer, and I don't even want to go into the number of books that he has done the work for, the photography work for. Historical books, geographical. I've seen his work. He is phenomenal and great stories to tell. His latest project, I don't even want to get into it. I want to let him tell the story, but he was all over the Vatican and just amazing stuff. So he's going to show some of his work off next week. It's going to be a fun show, and looking forward to it.
Cool. I'm excited. I had that private tour of the Vatican when I was in Rome.
I know.
So,
I was thinking of you when I was speaking with him. But yeah, I mean, you guys can compare notes.
I'm sure he saw a little more of it than I did, but I got a pretty good guided tour.
So yeah,
But I'm
that'll
excited.
be good. Tune in 3:00 Wednesday.
Cool. Thanks everybody for watching. This was awesome. I got pizza, I got beer, and we learned a lot. So we'll see you guys next Wednesday at 3:00.
In 3,